and welcome to another Warhammer 40,000 battle report brought to you by the Legion Wargaming. Today we have a brand new army on the channel. The Dark Eldar have arrived. At least the first battle-worthy force. We do have some more on the way. The Kabal of the Crimson Sky are celebrating their arrival with a real space raid in pursuit of their favourite prey. Not humans, not Tau, not orcs. Today they are hunting their Craftworld cousins, and their sights are firmly fixed on Craftworld Iyanden. We are very much looking forward to the clash between these two factions of the ancient Eldar race. The battle today is 2,000 points, an eternal war mission, Purge the Alien, with Vanguard Strike deployment, and will take place in this wilderness that, by the looks of it, was once home to some kind of imperial military landing pad installation, but today will be the scene of a clash of the Eldar. Let's take a look at the armies. This 2,000 point Dark Eldar army is battleforged and is a Real Space Raiders detachment. The first of the two HQ choices is an Archon. He has a Husk Blade, a Shadow Field, a Phantasm Grenade Launcher, and he is wearing the Armour of Misery. And the second HQ choice is a Succubus. She has an Archite Glaive, an Agonizer, the Archangel of Pain, and she is also carrying a Webway Portal. The first of this detachment's two Elites choices is a squad of 5 Incubi. They're led by a Clavex, and they are mounted in a Raider with a Dark Lance and Knight Shields. The second Elite's choice is a squad of 5 Carbonite Trueborn. 4 of them have blasters, and they are led by a Drakon with a blast pistol. They are mounted in a Venom with 2 splinter cannons. And this Real Space Raiders detachment has 3 troops choices. The first is a squad of 10 Carbonite Warriors. They have a blaster, a Dark Lance, and they are led by a Cyberite with a blast pistol. They're mounted in a Raider. It has a Disintegrator, Knight Shields, and Splinter Axe. And then there are 2 squads of Witches. The first is a squad of 10. They are led by a Hecatrix with an Agonizer, and they have 3 Hydra Gauntlets, and they are mounted in a Raider with a Dark Lance and Knight Shields. And the second squad of Witches is also a squad of 10. They have a Hecatrix with an Agonizer. They are also mounted in a Raider with a Dark Lance and Knight Shields. There are 3 fast attack choices in this detachment. The first is a squad of 10 Hellions. They are led by a Heliarch with an Agonizer. We have a squad of 5 Scourges. 2 of them have blasters. They are led by a Solarite with a blast pistol. And the Dark Eldar have also brought along a Razor Wing jet fighter with Dark Lances. And to round off this detachment, there is a single heavy support choice, which is a Ravager with 3 Disintegrators. This is a very, very fast army. The Dark Eldar are known for their speed, but will it be enough to overcome the forces of Craftworld Iyanden? Let's see what the Craftworlders have brought along. This 2,000 point Eldar Craftworlds army is battleforged and consists of a combined arms detachment and 2 aspect hosts. The combined arms detachment are the Eldar of Craftworld Iyanden, and they are led by their Spirit Seer, but it looks like they have been warned of the impending attack of their Dark Kin by a visiting Farseer from Craftworld Ulthway. The 2 troops choices in this detachment are 2 squads, each of 10 Guardians. Both of them have scatter laser platforms, and both of them are led by Warlocks. And this being Craftworld Iyanden, the Walking Dead are also joining this fight. We have 2 squads each of 5 Wraithguard filling 2 elite slots, and the towering form of the Wraithlord in a heavy support slot. He has an Eldar missile launcher, a Bright Lance, and 2 Flamers. The Eldar of Iyanden have also brought along 2 of their grav tanks. We have a Wave Serpent with twin-linked Bright Lances and an underslung Shuriken Cannon, and a Falcon with a Pulse Laser and a Scatter Laser. And the first of the 2 aspect hosts consists of 6 Striking Scorpions led by an Exarch with a Scorpion's Claw, 7 Howling Banshees led by an Exarch with an Executioner, and 10 Dire Avengers led by an Exarch, and this host has elected to have +1 weapon skill. The other aspect host, they have elected to have +1 ballistic skill, and they have 6 Fire Dragons led by an Exarch, 6 Dire Avengers led by an Exarch, and 5 Dark Reapers. They have an Exarch. They also all have Star Shot missiles. We are expecting these aspect warriors to be very good at shooting down raiders with their Reaper rangefinders. There seem to be a lot of Eldar in this Craftworlds list. Let's see how they cope with the attack of the Cabal of the Crimson Sky. Moving into deployment. And the armies have deployed, and Craftworld Iyanden have anchored their right flank with their Wraith constructs. On the far right we have the Wave Serpent containing 1 squad of Wraithguard and the Spirit Seer, and next to them is another squad of Wraithguard moving down through these barricades. To their front we have the towering form of the Iyanden Wraithlord. He is backed up by a squad of 6 Dire Avengers. They have ballistic skill 5, and a squad of 7 Howling Banshees. They have weapon skill 5. The centre of the Craftworlders line is held by their 2 squads of Guardians, one surrounding the base of this ruined bunker, and the other swarming through this ruined chapel. On this small rocky rise they are backed up by the Dark Reapers. They have an excellent field of fire across the whole battlefield. From there they are looking to shoot down as many Dark Eldar grav vehicles as possible, and we have the Falcon containing the Fire Dragons. They are waiting to move to where they think they will be most needed. And all the way over on the far left flank, the Ulthway Farseer has joined the aggressive weapon skill 5 Dire Avengers. They are looking to move forward through this broken terrain and potentially catch up with the infiltrating striking Scorpions. The Dark Eldar, this is a splinter raid, so they have deployed in formation. All of their grav vehicles, they have a Raider containing the Kabalite warriors, a Venom with the Trueborn with all of their blasters, and then the 2 Raiders containing the Witches. The Witches have rolled for their combat drugs. All the Dark Eldar that are on drugs for this battle have taken Painbringer. They have +1 toughness, which could come in very handy. The final unit the Dark Eldar have deployed is the Ravager, so they have left a lot in reserve. The Archon and the Succubus have joined the Incubi, and they will be popping out through a webway portal at some point, and the Hellions and the Scourges are waiting to descend from the skies. Meanwhile, moving at supersonic speed towards the battlefield, the Dark Eldar also have their Razorwing jet fighter. The Eldar deployed first, so unless the Dark Eldar can seize the initiative, we will be going into Craftworld Eldar turn 1. And it seems that the Dark Eldar are determined to announce their arrival on this channel in style, as they have rolled the 6 and seized the initiative. So the Dark Eldar Raiders have caught the Eldar of Craftworld Iyanden napping, and we go into Dark Eldar turn 1. End of Dark Eldar movement phase turn 1, and the Raiders, the Ravager and the Venom, they have maintained formation, and they are all moving at high speed towards the Iyanden Eldar's right flank. They have had a stroke of luck in seizing the initiative, and they want to capitalise on that by claiming first blood. So they, bringing their disintegrators, their dark lances and some long range splinter fire from the Kabalite warriors in the lead Raider, all combine to try to take out the Iyanden Wraithlord. With no psychic phase, we go straight into the shooting phase. Let's see if the Dark Eldar can do it. End of Dark Eldar shooting phase turn 1, and the splinter fire from the lead Raider. The Kabalite warriors used a splinter axe, but they had no effect on the towering form of the Wraithlord. The disintegrator managed to do 2 wounds with a double 6, but the Wraithlord had some cover and rolled a double 6 on its cover save, so no damage. The Ravager then opened fire, managing 5 hits with its disintegrators, but again the Wraithlord was unharmed. There were no 6s to wound. The Venom then opened fire with its 2 splinter cannons and was much more effective, dealing 2 wounds to the Wraith Lord, leaving it still standing on 1. But it was finally finished off by one of the 2 Dark Lances fired from the Witches Raiders. They only got 1 hit, but it wounded, and the Wraith Lord failed its cover save. So, although it took the fire of every Dark Eldar model on the table, they have taken out the Wraith Lord. They've achieved first blood, and they have their first kill point. With no assaults, that brings Dark Eldar turn 1 to a close as we go into Craftworld Iyanden turn 1. End of Eldar Craftworlds movement phase turn 1, and their right flank is responding quickly. The Wave Serpent has floated forward 6 inches, and from its rear hatch has appeared a squad of 5 Wraith Guard led by the Spirit Seer. Fortunately for the Dark Eldar, only 2 of their deadly D cannon are in range of the lead raider. The other squad of Wraith Guard have advanced down from behind the barricades, and to their front the Howling Banshees have acrobatically scaled this landing pad. These Dire Avengers are moving towards the centre of the Eldar line, which, except for the Falcon, which is trying to take up a position centrally on this battlefield, has stayed stationary. The Dire Avengers over here, they wanted to advance, but a double 1 on their move through cover left them stranded. And despite having moved through cover, the Striking Scorpions only managed 3 inches over this rocky rise. But the Eldar line is looking formidable. There is going to be a lot of firepower coming out at these light Dark Eldar vehicles. This is a Real Space Raiders detachment, so 3 of these Raiders will have a 5+ cover save increased to 4+ by Night Shields. The Venom has its flicker field, and the Ravager is probably the most vulnerable. He is only granted a 6+ cover save by the detachment special rules. So this could be a tricky phase for the Eldar, but first they also have to deal with another tricky phase. Eldar Psychic phase, turn 1. End of Eldar Psychic phase, turn 1, and as the cunning Dark Eldar have angled their attack towards the Eldar right flank, the Farseer finds himself a long way away from the action. So most of his powers are out of range. He tried to put guide onto the Falcon, but very luckily the Dark Eldar managed to deny it. As the Spirit Seer's powers are no use against vehicles, Hallucination, Terrify, Psychic Shriek, the rest of the dice were used by the 2 Warlocks, who have both managed to conceal their respective Guardian Defender squads. So not a very good opening Psychic phase for the Eldar, but they are expecting a very effective shooting phase. Eldar Craftworld shooting phase, turn 1. End of Craftworld Eldar shooting phase, turn 1, and there's no doubt about it, this was one of the worst shooting phases we have seen in any battle report yet on this channel. The phase opened with the Striking Scorpions attempting to battle focus forward to bring their Shuriken pistols into range. They rolled a 3, decided to re-roll, and ended up only going an inch forward. They were out of range. At least the Dire Avengers managed a 5-inch run. So they are now cresting that rocky rise. The Falcon opened fire on the jinking Ravager and did no damage at all. It was woeful in its accuracy, and the one penetrating hit from the pulse laser was jinked. The Ravager, of course, could not jink against the Dark Reapers with their Reaper rangefinders, but they only managed to get 2 penetrating hits, and with its 6+ cover save for being in a Real Space Raiders detachment, it did of course roll a double 6. It is unharmed, but it has jinked. The 2 Guardian squads open fire with their scatter lasers on the Venom. Only one of their shots managed to get through the flicker field. They have done 1 glancing hit, and the Banshees could not do any more. They ran forward, they hit it with a hail of Shuriken shots from their pistols, but could not penetrate its armour. And over on the far left of the Dark Eldar attack, this Raider, it's not jinked and it is undamaged. The Wave Serpent managed 1 penetrating hit with its bright lances, but that was saved by the 4+ save for Real Space Raiders and the Night Shields. It was dreadful with its shuriken cannon, and the one D-cannon shot that managed to hit from these Wraithguard rolled a 1. So the entire Eldar army opened fire, and all they managed to achieve was 1 hull point on a Venom and making a Ravager jink. That is a terrible, terrible turn for the Eldar. They have scored no points. Let's see if more of their dark kin turn up in Dark Eldar turn 2. Start of Dark Eldar turn 2, and this is shaping up to be a textbook example of the perfect splinter raid. As the veils of reality part, a raider slips through, carrying the Archon, the Incubi and the Succubus. They are right in the heart of the Eldar line, and zeroing in on the rent in reality, the Hellions have hurtled towards the battlefield. 1 failed to pull up and has been smashed to pieces on the rocks, but there are 9 left, and the battlefield echoes to the sound of jet engines as the Razor Wing jet fighter has zoomed on, and it has its Dark Lances trained on the Falcon carrying the Fire Dragons. Along with the Dark Eldar Grav Assault, it looks like the Eldar right flank is in deep, deep trouble. Let's see how the Dark Eldar proceed in Dark Eldar movement phase turn 2. End of Dark Eldar movement phase turn 2, and it looks like the legions of Wraithguard of Iyanden are in for a real hammering. The Kabalites have moved 6 inches forward in their raider. They are preparing to unleash their splinter weaponry onto the Wraithguard led by the Spirit Seer. They are followed up by a squad of witches. They have not disembarked from their raider. They've moved 12. But the Trueborn have only moved 6 to bring their 4 blasters into range of the Wave Serpent. The deep striking Hellions, they have splinter pods, and they are looking to tear through this other squad of Wraithguard. Meanwhile, the Archon and the Succubus along with the Incubi have disembarked from their raider that has appeared through the webway portal, and they are getting ready for what we think is going to be a very effective combination. The Succubus is going to unleash the Archangel of Pain, and the Archon is wearing the Armour of Misery. So we could see a lot of Eldar go down. That's -4 on the leadership test for every unit within 9 inches of the Archangel, and for every point you fail by, you lose a wound with no armour or cover saves. That could be devastating. Meanwhile, these witches have moved 6 in their raider. They have disembarked. They are looking to take on the Howling Banshees, and the Ravager, which jinked, is moving forward. May be able to add some snapshots somewhere. The Razor Wing flew on at the start of the turn and is lining up for an attack run on the Falcon. This is looking very bad for the Eldar. Let's see how it works out in Dark Eldar shooting phase turn 2. End of Dark Eldar shooting phase turn 2, and it has been a mixed phase for the Dark Eldar. The Wraithguard have proved quite resilient, although 4 of the squad guarding the Spirit Seer did go down to a huge volley of splinter and blaster fire from the occupants of this raider along with its disintegrator. The Wave Serpent only suffered a single glancing hit from the blasters fired by the Trueborn from the back of their Venom, and the Dark Lance shot fired as a snapshot by this raider did not do any further damage. The splinter cannons on the Venom opened fire on these Wraithguard, but had no effect in a very bad volley of fire, and the Hellions only managed to take down 1. So the Wraithguard have stood up quite well to the fire, as has the Falcon. The strafing Razor Wing only managed to do a single penetrating hit, which has disabled its twin-link shuriken catapults and done a hull point, but that is not a bad result for the Eldar. And the Witches opened fire with their splinter pistols on the Banshees as they prepared to charge, and they had no effect, nor did the snap shooting Ravager, which also targeted the Wraithguard. But in the centre, the Archangel of Pain has done its hideous work. As a Succubus opened it, the demon let free, and all of the Dark Reapers were wiped out as they rolled an 11 for their leadership check. 2 of the Guardians went down, and another was taken out by the Archon's grenade launcher, and 5 of the Dire Avengers were also killed by the Archangel of Pain. Their Exarch was the only survivor, but he was taken out as the Raider opened fire with its Dark Lance. That Archangel of Pain managed to take out all the Dark Reapers, 5 of the Dire Avengers, and a couple of Guardians, and the Eldar were not particularly unlucky on their leadership test. That could be a very, very dangerous combination. So a mixed turn so far for the Dark Eldar. They are in the ascendancy, it seems, but the Wraithguard are proving resilient. Let's see if these witches can take out the Banshees. Going into Dark Eldar Assault Phase Turn 2. End of Dark Eldar Assault Phase Turn 2, and the witches made their charge up the rocks and onto the top of the landing pad. One witch was shot down by the Howling Banshees on Overwatch, and then the Howling Banshee Exarch challenged the Hecatrix. The Hecatrix managed to wound the Exarch once with her Agonizer, but then was cut in two by the Executioner. Meanwhile, the witches struck before the Banshees and they managed to take out all of them. The Exarch lost the combat by a wide margin and has fallen back. She has escaped the sweeping advance, but these witches are very happy that they have triumphed over the much feared Eldar Aspect Warriors. That brings Dark Eldar Turn 2 to a close. They are relatively happy. They have wiped out another 2 units this turn, the Dire Avengers at the base of the landing pad and of course the Dark Reapers. So the score currently stands at the end of Dark Eldar Turn 2. 4 points to the Dark Eldar and nothing yet to the Eldar, going into Eldar Craftworlds Turn 2. End of Eldar Craftworlds Movement Phase Turn 2, and it would be safe to say that the Farseer of Ulthwé is not happy. Both he and the Spirit Seer of Iyanden have been made to look like fools by their cackling, debased dark kin, but he is going to rectify that now. He has gritted his teeth and ordered the Dire Avengers to move back the way they have come as the Falcon backs away. It is lining up shots from its pulse laser, and it has also dropped off its cargo of fire dragons. Right over in the middle of nowhere, the striking Scorpions are beginning to think they are not going to contribute to this battle at all, but they are moving as fast as they can to get back into the fray. And the Iyanden Guardians, they are ordered by their warlocks to move towards the Archon and his Incubi bodyguard. There is going to be a hail of shrieking fire, hopefully to cut through them as the Howling Banshee Exarch continues to flee. Not only will the Incubi and the Archon have to stand up to a lot of shrieking fire, the Spirit Seer has joined this squad of 4 Wraithguard, and he is ordering them to destroy the Dark Eldar command utterly. Meanwhile, the one remaining Wraithguard from the squad that he has left is lining up his D-cannon to take out the Kabalites' Raider, and the Wave Serpent, it has not moved, it is going to give as much fire as possible to thin out these Dark Eldar grav vehicles. It's looking like the Archon may be in trouble. Let's see if his troubles get worse in Eldar Psychic Phase Turn 2. End of Eldar Craftworld Psychic Phase Turn 2, and the Eldar are beginning to flex their psychic muscles. The Farseer easily summoned up enough warp charges to put doom on the Incubi, the Succubus and the Archon. Things are looking grim for them, and then the Spirit Seer followed it up with a Psychic Shriek, which took out 5 of the Hellions. The Spirit Seer then used the last couple of dice to successfully cast Terrify on the witches, but the frenzied Dark Eldar refuse to break and fall back. So, not a bad phase. It's looking like the Archon's days are numbered. Let's see in Eldar Craftworld Shooting Phase Turn 2. End of Eldar Craftworld Shooting Phase Turn 2, and the Eldar just cannot seem to break their run of bad luck. The Scorpions got a good battle focus run, and they managed to do a single glance on the now empty Raider, but despite scoring 4 penetrating hits with their fusion guns, the Fire Dragons looked on in dismay as the Ravager jinked all 4 of them. The pilot of this Ravager is some kind of prodigy. From long range, the Falcon targeted the Raider that is still full of witches. Its penetrating hit with its pulse laser was jinked, but it did manage to do 1 glance with its scatter laser. And the Wave Serpent continued to target the same Raider. Its penetrating Bright Lance hit was jinked. Its penetrating Shuriken Cannon hit was jinked, and in desperation it unleashed its Serpent Shield. Finally, as the waves of force hit the Raider, it exploded and took out 7 of the witches. There's only 3 left. They've lost their Hecatrix as well. Finally a good result, and finally a kill point for the Eldar. Disappointingly, this Wraithguard missed with his shot against the Kabalites Raider, and perhaps the worst news of this phase, although they took an absolute hail of firepower, the Archon is still standing, and he still even has 1 Incubus with him. His Shadow Field saved 12 Shuriken wounds, 3 Scatter Laser wounds and a D-shot, and it's still working. A D-shot did blow the Succubus to pieces though, and a hail of Shuriken fire did take out nearly all of the Incubi. It is a kill point for the Succubus, but to have the Archon still standing, that is disappointing. The Dire Avengers desperately tried to battle focus forwards to help out in terms of firepower, but they rolled a 1, and their reroll with Fleet was another 1. Still, at least the Eldar, they're off the mark. They have 2 points, but another disastrous shooting phase and some unbelievable jinking from the Dark Eldar pilots. Let's see what the Dark Eldar can do and whether their last reserves arrive in Dark Eldar turn 3. Start of Dark Eldar turn 3, and their final reserve unit has arrived. Deep striking into an impossibly small gap. They scattered, but they just fit between the Wave Serpent and the Kabalites Raider. It's almost like they were waiting for the Wave Serpent to discharge its shields before swooping down with their blasters. It's the Scourges. Let's see what the rest of the Dark Eldar get up to in their 3rd movement phase. End of Dark Eldar movement phase turn 3, and the Dark Eldar are looking to cut the Eldar to pieces, 1 unit at a time. They're focusing their firepower. The Kabalites in their Raider, they've moved forward 6. They're going to unleash a volley of splinter fire to hopefully take out the rest of the Wraithguard and the Spirit Seer. They are leaving the last Wraithguard here and the Wave Serpent too. The newly arrived Scourges and the Razorwing jet fighter that is zooming overhead. The Witches, they are moving back down the landing pad. They think they can take on the Fire Dragons. They are supported by the other 3 Witches here, too far away, but still moving forwards. And the Ravager and the Raider, both of these jinx, so their fire may have little effect, but we shall see. And the Trueborn have pulled back full 12 inches in their venom. They are intending to use its splinter cannon to deal with as many aspect warriors as possible. And as the Archon's Raider cruises in to start a Dark Lance duel with the Falcon, the Archon, his remaining Incubus, and the 4 remaining Hellions are preparing to charge against the Guardians holding this ruined bunker. This could be the Dark Eldar's favourite death by 1,000 cuts. Let's see, going into Dark Eldar shooting phase, turn 3. End of Dark Eldar shooting phase, turn 3, and it has been the turn of the Dark Eldar to have a disappointing phase. Even though it was targeted by both the Razorwing and the newly arrived Scourges, this Wave Serpent refuses to die. It only took a single glancing hit, although it has jinked. The Kabalites fired from their Raider and they took out another 3 Wraithguard, and crucially the Spirit Seer, earning the Dark Eldar another kill point. This flank is starting to look quite weak. There are 2 single Wraithguard who are kill points waiting to be hoovered up, and the badly damaged Wave Serpent. The Archon had no luck with his Phantasm Grenade Launcher against the Guardians, and the Hellions had another dreadful volley from their Splinter Pods, also having no effect. The Witches, who are preparing to charge the Fire Dragons, managed to shoot one down with their Splinter Pistols, and another Aspect Warrior went down, as well as the Exarch being wounded by a volley from the Trueborn's Venom. The Ravager and the other Raider, they were both firing snapshots, so they had no effect. So not too much damage inflicted by the Dark Eldar this turn. Let's see if their fortune improves in Dark Eldar Assault Phase, turn 3. End of Dark Eldar Assault Phase, turn 3, and the Witches did not fare as well against the Fire Dragons as they did against the Howling Banshees at the beginning of this game. They managed to pull down one Fire Dragon. They took no casualties in return, and they remain locked. Meanwhile, the Archon and the Hellions have dealt with the first squad of Iyanden Guardians. The Archon personally killed 3, and the Warlock, and the Hellions killed another 3. One Hellion went down in return, but they were swept and destroyed. But crucially, these Iyanden Guardians have given their brothers every chance of taking out the Dark Eldar Warlord, as with their Overwatch volley, not only did they take out the last Incubus, but they finally penetrated the Archon shadow field. He is looking very vulnerable now. He only has 3 Hellions there to protect him. So those Iyanden Guardians have sold their lives very well for their Craftworld. Let's see what the Craftworlders do going into their third turn. End of Eldar Craftworld movement phase, turn 3, and although they have taken horrendous casualties, it looks like the Craftworlders think that they can inflict some crippling blows this turn. The Wave Serpent that jinked it has backed off. It's still going to be giving fire, and the 2 remaining Wraithguard, they are going to try desperately to knock out the Kabalites in their Raider that have taken out so many Wraith constructs. Meanwhile, the Archon, he has big problems. The Iyanden Guardians, they have formed a firing line at the barricades, and they will be joined in their fire by the Ulthway Farseer and the Dire Avengers. The Farseer looks on with great satisfaction as he senses that the end of the Archon is near. That will be good. That will be Slay the Warlord for the Eldar as well. Meanwhile, the Striking Scorpions, they are moving over this landing pad. They intend to charge in to help out the Fire Dragons against the Witches, and the Eldar Falcon, it has moved back to open up a good line of fire to try to knock out the Trueborn, who have been cruising around causing so much damage in their venom. So this could be a critical turn. The Eldar have had their psychic potential dented a little. The Spirit Seer has fallen, as has one Warlock, but we still have a Warlock and the Ulthway Farseer going into Eldar Psychic Phase, turn 3. End of Eldar Psychic Phase, turn 3, and just when things look like they are going the way of the Craftworlders, fate is cruel. The Winds of the Warp were only 1, which gave the Eldar a total of 5 dice. The Farseer, trusting to his reroll ability, decided to try to get Doom on the Witches and Guide on his own squad of Dire Avengers, but despite his rerolls, he failed to harness a single warp charge successfully this turn. No powers went off. Luck really has not been with the Craftworlders this game. Let's see if they can make up for it in Craftworld Eldar Shooting Phase, turn 3. End of Eldar Shooting Phase, turn 3, and it started very disappointingly for the Eldar as both Wraithguard managed to hit the Kabalite Raider with their D-cannon, but it jinked both of them. The Wave Serpent was firing snapshots and failed to hit with any of its weapons, but the Iyanden Guardians and the Dire Avengers have got the job done over at the ruined bunker. The Iyanden Guardians cut down all 3 remaining Hellions, and then with great pleasure the Dire Avengers unleashed a volley which shredded the Archon. That's a point for the Hellions, a point for the Archon, and another point for Slay the Warlord. And with an excellent long range shot, the Iyanden Falcon has finally managed to wreck the Kabalite Trueborn's venom. They are out, and that's another kill point. So, a good phase overall for the Eldar. Let's see if they can follow it up with a good assault phase as the striking Scorpions charge in to the aid of the Fire Dragons. Eldar assault phase, turn 3. End of Craftworld Eldar assault phase, turn 3, and the Scorpions did make it into the Witches, but their Exarch was left frustrated when the 3 wounds he inflicted with his Scorpion's Claw were all dodged. The Scorpions managed to take out 1 Witch, and another was taken out by the Fire Dragons. The Witches did not manage to take down a single Aspect Warrior. In return, they lost the combat by 2, but they have held morale, which is a disappointing result for the Dark Eldar, as they had quite a nice firing line ready to deal with these Aspect Warriors. The Eldar have had a very good turn. They have scored 5 points, and at the end of game turn 3, that means that the Eldar of Craftworld Iyanden are slightly in the lead. It is 7 points to the Craftworlders, only 6 to the Dark Eldar. But as we go into Dark Eldar turn 4, it does look like there are a few easy kill points to be picked up. Let's see. End of Dark Eldar movement phase turn 4, and the Dark Eldar are having to be very cagey in working out how they can pick up these kill points. The Razor Wing has left combat airspace. It needs to align itself for its next attack run. So the 2 remaining Wraithguard here and the Wave Serpent, they all need to be taken out this turn. The Scourges, they are tasked with their blasters in taking out the Wave Serpent, and this Kabalite Raider, it jinked, but with Splinter Axe they are hoping that they can take out 1 Wraithguard. The other can be taken out by some long range shooting from the Ravager, which for the first time this game has not been targeted by the Eldar in their turn, so it will be firing at full ballistic skill. The 2 other Raiders, they haven't jinked either. They are going to try to knock out the Falcon at long range with their Dark Lances, and the remaining Dark Eldar infantry, 3 Witches and the 5 Trueborn, they are moving to join this melee in the centre. It's turn 4, so the Eldar need to watch out. The Dark Eldar have Feel No Pain and Furious Charge. Will it be enough to tip the balance? We shall see. Going into Dark Eldar shooting phase, turn 4. End of Dark Eldar shooting phase, turn 4, and the Eldar presence over on this flank has now been eliminated. The Scourges, they only managed 1 penetrating hit with their blasters, but it was enough. The Wave Serpent has gone down, and the Kabalites in their Raider did particularly well. They took out 1 Wraithguard with a volley from their Splinter Rifles, and even though it was firing snapshots, the Disintegrator managed to take out the other Wraithguard behind these barricades. So that is 3 points. Very good on this flank. This Raider and the other Raider both targeted. The Falcon, it elected not to jink. It wants to keep firing, but it was penetrated and immobilised, so it's only got 1 whole point left. And as its fire was not needed over on this flank, the Ravager opened fire on the Dire Avengers, managing to kill 3 of them at long range. So quite a good phase for the Dark Eldar. Let's see if the Trueborn and the Witches can rush to the rescue in the centre in Dark Eldar assault phase, turn 4. End of Dark Eldar assault phase, turn 4, and both the Trueborn and the Witches made it into this assault. The Trueborn, they had 3 of their number cut down by the striking Scorpions, but in return they and the newly arrived squad of Witches managed to take out 3 Scorpions. Neither the Fire Dragons nor any Witches suffered any casualties, so the combat was drawn, 3 wounds each. So it continues. At the end of Dark Eldar turn 4, they have gone back into the lead. They got 3 points this turn. The score is 9 points to the Dark Eldar and 7 to the Craftworlders. How will the Craftworlders respond? They still have a fair amount of strength in their centre. Going into Eldar Craftworld turn 4. End of Eldar Craftworld's movement phase, turn 4, and the Eldar don't have an awful lot left that can move. The Falcon, is immobilised, but it's going to keep giving fire to try and knock out some of these Eldar Grav vehicles. Realising that there's 3 kill points up for grabs in the centre, the Farseer has ordered the Weapon Skill 5 Dire Avengers to move forward. They may be able to charge from there, we will see. A bad move through cover roll by the Iyanden Guardians has meant they have not managed to get up onto the roof of this bunker as they wanted, but their scatter laser still has line of sight on the Dark Eldar vehicles. And although we haven't mentioned her for a couple of turns, the wounded Howling Banshee Exarch continues to make her escape. She is a kill point waiting to happen for the Dark Eldar. So, this game is getting very close. Let's see what the Eldar can do. They still have psychic superiority going into Eldar Psychic Phase, turn 4. End of Eldar Craftworld Psychic Phase, turn 4, and this Farseer really is not having a very good day. With 6 dice he used 4 to attempt Doom on the witches in the centre. Once again, even with rerolls, he failed to get it off. He then managed to get Guide off with 1 successful warp charge on the Falcon, but the Dark Eldar used their 2 dice to deny it. So, no effect in the Eldar Psychic Phase. Let's see if their shooting phase is more successful. Eldar Craftworlds, turn 4. End of Eldar Craftworld shooting phase, turn 4, and the Guardians, they battle focused forwards. The first rank has managed to get up onto the roof, and then they open fire with their scatter laser. They managed to get 1 penetrating hit on this raider, but it was jinked. It did not, however, manage to jink the penetrating hit caused by the immobilised Falcon's pulse laser. It has exploded. That's another kill point for the Craftworlders. Meanwhile, the Farseer and his Dire Avengers, they have not shot or run. They are going to try to join this combat in the centre in Eldar Craftworld's Assault Phase, turn 4. End of Eldar Craftworld's Assault Phase, turn 4, and even with fleet, the Dire Avengers could not cover the distance to join this combat in the centre. In the combat, the Witches performed a lot better. They managed to take down 2 Fire Dragons and a Striking Scorpion. The Trueborn did not get to strike, as before they could, the Striking Scorpion Exarch butchered them with his Scorpion's Claw. Still, the rest of the Aspect Warriors could not take out any Witches, so the Dark Eldar won the combat by 1. Unsurprisingly, neither the Fire Dragon Exarch nor the remaining Scorpions have fled, and the Striking Scorpion Exarch is proving to be a very difficult obstacle for the Dark Eldar. That brings Eldar Craftworld's turn 4 to a close. They only managed 1 kill point for the exploded raider, and it means that the Dark Eldar are still leading 9 points to 8 going into Dark Eldar turn 5. End of Dark Eldar movement phase, turn 5, and the Dark Eldar have decided that they need to wipe away the Iyanden Guardians and the Dire Avengers from joining this combat in the centre. Maybe the Witches can hold on, as long as the Eldar are not reinforced. So, the Kabalites have moved forward 6 in their raider. They are going to gun down as many Guardians as they can. The Scourges, they have leapt over this landing pad. They are going to give their fire either on the Guardians or on the Dire Avengers, as is the Ravager from long range. This raider with its Dark Lance, it is going to try to take the last hull point off of the immobilised Falcon. Meanwhile, the Dark Eldar are gratified to see the Razorwing jet fighter once again in combat airspace. It has moved on. It hasn't used any of its mono-scythe missiles yet. They could be very effective against this mass of Eldar. Meanwhile, the Witches, they just need to hold on. Let's see how the Dark Eldar perform in Dark Eldar shooting phase, turn 5. End of Dark Eldar shooting phase, turn 5, and disappointment on their left flank as the Carbolite Warriors in their raider only managed to gun down 1 Guardian, although the disintegrator on their raider took out another. The raider with the Dark Lance managed to hit the Falcon, but the Dark Bolt rebounded harmlessly from its frontal armour. That left the Razorwing and the Ravager and the Scourges to all concentrate their firepower on the Farseer and his squad. The Scourges fired. Dreadfully, they had no effect. The Monoscythe missiles from the Razor Wing fared better and took out 3 Dire Avengers, and another 2 went down, and the Exarch was wounded by a volley of disintegrator fire from the Ravager. So, although nothing has been wiped out, particularly this Dire Avenger squad has been very badly mauled. We have an ongoing assault. Let's see if it reaches its conclusion in Dark Eldar Assault Phase, turn 5. End of Dark Eldar Assault Phase, turn 5, and it looks like the witches are finally getting the better of the Aspect Warriors. Finally, the Fire Dragon Exarch has gone down. Unfortunately, that has taken this squad of witches out of assault, and there's a lot of shuriken catapults pointed at them. Still, it's good that the Fire Dragons are gone. Meanwhile, the Striking Scorpion Exarch has killed another witch with his claw, but in return, the witches hacked down the last Striking Scorpion Aspect Warrior, so he is just on his own against 2 witches. Still, you would back him to be the victor. We also forgot that he finished off the Trueborn in the previous assault phase, so the Eldar actually did have an extra kill point for that. So, the score at the end of Dark Eldar turn 5 is 10 points to the Dark Eldar, as they only got 1 point this turn for the Fire Dragons, and 9 to the Craftworld Eldar. But it looks like the Dark Eldar have another kill point on the way. We shall see going into Eldar Craftworlds, turn 5. End of Eldar Craftworlds movement phase, turn 5, and as the Banshee Exarch has left the battlefield, that has opened up a 2-point gap. The Dark Eldar currently have 11, the Eldar have 9, so the Farseer has decided that risks are required to ensure victory, so he is leading. The 2 remaining Dire Avengers, they are going to fire a volley into these witches, then they are going to charge. The immobilised Falcon, it is going to try and shoot down another Raider, and the last Eldar unit, the Guardians, they have made it to the roof of the bunker, and they are going to try to gun down all of the Scourges with a volley of shuriken and laser fire. It's all doable. Let's see if the Farseer can do anything to help out his beleaguered comrades in Eldar Psychic Phase, turn 5. End of Eldar Craftworld Psychic Phase, turn 5, and the Farseer has finally managed to get Doom onto these witches. He used 4 dice and he needed his reroll, but they are doomed. He then managed to get Guide off on the Guardians with 1 successful warp charge, but the Dark Eldar have denied it yet again. So, Doom is exactly what he needed to give him a chance. Let's see if it works. Going into Eldar Craftworlds Shooting Phase, turn 5. End of Eldar Craftworld Shooting Phase, turn 5, and despite them being doomed, Power from Pain has saved the witches from destruction. Only 1 was shot down by the Dire Avengers despite plenty of wounds. And a similar story occurred when the Guardians targeted the Scourges. They got lots of hits and wounds, but between the Ghost Plate and the Feel No Pain, only 2 went down. They have passed morale. The Falcon was extremely accurate in its fire. It got 2 pulse laser hits and 4 scatter laser hits, but this Raider has jinked excellently, and only 1 glancing hit caused by a scatter laser has taken 1 hull point. So disappointment throughout the phase for the Eldar. The Farseer is beginning to regret his idea of charging the witches. He thought quite a few more would have gone down, but he stood in the open. So what choice does he have? Going into Eldar Craftworlds Assault Phase, turn 5. End of Eldar Craftworlds Assault Phase, turn 5, and the Farseer and the Dire Avengers have not done very well against the witches. The Dire Avenger Exarch managed to kill 1 of the nimble Dark Eldar, but in return they killed both the last Dire Avenger and wounded the Farseer. The Farseer could do no damage, so they lost the combat by 1, but they have held. They are outnumbered. This is looking like a foolhardy mistake by the Farseer. And In the other ongoing combat, the striking Scorpion Exarch could not get his Scorpion's Claw onto either of the witches dancing around him, but neither could they penetrate his mighty aspect armour, so no damage was done. They remain locked. That brings Eldar turn 5 to a close, and unfortunately they have failed to achieve any kill points this turn, so the score remains 9 points to the Eldar of Craftworld Iyanden and 11 points to the Dark Eldar. We have rolled already. We are going into Dark Eldar turn 6. Could this be the death blow? Let's see. End of Dark Eldar movement phase turn 6, and the Kabalite warriors have finally deployed from their raider. They are looking to join this combat. There are a lot of points here, 1 for finishing off the Dire Avengers, 1 for finishing off the Farseer, and he is the Warlord as well, so that could be decisive. Meanwhile, overhead, the Razor Wing sweeps in towards these Iyanden Guardians. It still has 2 monocyte missiles. It will be joined in its fire by the Scourges, and from long range, the Ravager. The Jinking Raider may as well try once again to knock out the Falcon, and the Dark Eldar are just hoping that these 2 witches can finish off the striking Scorpion Exarch, although they don't seem to be doing very well at that. But this does look like a good opportunity for the Dark Eldar to put this battle beyond any doubt. Going into Dark Eldar shooting phase turn 6. End of Dark Eldar shooting phase turn 6, and the Razor Wing launched 2 missiles which both impacted right on the roof of the bunker. That annihilated all of the Guardians except 1 stunned survivor. As he stumbled towards the parapet, he was gleefully gunned down by the 3 Scourges. As that left the Ravager with nothing worth firing at, both it and the Raider realised that they were Dark Eldar. They have no sense of honour, so they move flat out over here to hide themselves from any fire from the immobilised Iyanden Falcon. This is looking very grim for the Craftworlders. Can they finish it off in superb style in Dark Eldar Assault Phase turn 6? End of Dark Eldar Assault Phase turn 6, and the sound of evil laughter is echoing across this wilderness battlefield. The Kabalites made it in to support the witches against the Dire Avenger Exarch and the Farseer, but they weren't needed. The witches cut both of the Craftworld Eldar down. That scores a point for the Dire Avengers, a point for the Farseer, and another point for Slay the Warlord. And to rub salt into the wound, the Kabalite warriors have consolidated far enough to achieve line breaker as well. In the other assault, the striking Scorpion Exarch managed to crush the life out of 1 witch with his Scorpion's Claw, but the lone surviving member of this witch squad refuses to flee, even though she cannot hurt the Scorpion. As the Eldar forces remaining are an immobilised Falcon and the heroic striking Scorpion Exarch. We are calling the game here. The final score is 16 points to the Dark Eldar and 9 to the Craftworlders. This has been an excellent game to introduce the Dark Eldar to this channel. They are a lot of fun to play with. They had a lot of luck early in the game. The Eldar firing was absolutely dreadful, and frankly a few raiders, perhaps the Venom, should have gone down in short order, but it was not to be. The Dark Eldar are victorious in their first battle on this channel, and it has been an extremely fun battle to play as well. Thanks very much for watching. Please subscribe to our channel and we will keep producing as many Warhammer 40,000 battle reports as we can. See ya!